Welcome to today's webcast, Enterprise Agile Management with TFS 2013. My name is Colin Dembowski. I'm an ALM MVP based in East London, South Africa, and I work for a company called Imaginet. I'll have more on Imaginet service offerings at the end of this webcast. My Twitter handle is Colin Dembowski, and I blog regularly to colinsalmcorner.com. Before we start today's webcast, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Imaginet. We have over 650 successful ALM customers and over 1,800 successful ALM engagements. We're a Microsoft Gold certified partner with the ALM competency, and in 2011 we were Microsoft's ALM Partner of the Year. We have only the highest level of expertise with Microsoft ALM technologies and a close working relationship with Microsoft. On staff, we have multiple Microsoft Regional Directors, TFS Rangers, Virtual Technical Specialists, and many Microsoft MVPs. In today's session, we'll look at product backlogs, iteration backlogs, and task boards. These are all 2012 features. We'll then look at a new TFS 2013 feature called Portfolio Management. We'll then look at Kanban boards, and we'll discuss teams and how you can distribute work across multiple teams. This is the new web access page for TFS 2013. When you log on to the root page of the web access, you'll see a list of the recent projects and teams that you've connected to. I'm going to hit Browse All so we can see all of the team projects, collections, and teams within this particular server. I have three collections here: the default collection, Fabricam Fiber collection, and the Tailspin Toys collection. Within the Fabricam Fiber collection, I have two team projects, Agile Git and Fabricam Fiber. I can further expand Fabricam Fiber to see that I have three teams defined within the Fabricam Fiber team project. Let's connect to Fabricam Fiber. This will connect us to the default team for this team project. This is the home page for a particular team. Each team has its own set of backlogs and iterations, and so they can work pretty much independently from each other. Of course, you can share iterations and backlogs if you so choose as well. When you log on to the home page, TFS works out what the current iteration is. The date of this machine is set to the 9th of July 2013, which falls between the dates of the 1st and the 12th of July, which are the start and end dates for this iteration. If I click Configure Schedule and Iterations, I'll be able to go and see a list of all the iterations that I've defined. These iterations are hierarchical. You can create as many iterations and levels of iterations as you choose. You'll also see that you can specify start and end dates on your iterations. Let's create a new iteration here under Release 2 for iteration 5. When we open up the start date, TFS is going to work out what's the first working day after the end of the previous sprint. It'll also take the length of the previous sprint to calculate the end date. Of course, you can change these if these defaults are not what you want. To make particular iterations available for the team, we'll have to make sure it's checked in this checkbox here. Again, we'll see more of this a little bit later on. Let's go and view the product backlog. This is the list of all product backlog items within my team project. This team project was created using the Scrum template, and so the requirements are represented by product backlog items. Other templates have different work item types for specifying requirements. CMMI uses the requirement work item type, while the Agile template uses user stories. We can use this Add panel to quickly add new product backlog items onto the backlog. I'll create a new one called Add Celsius Fahrenheit Converter and Icons to Weather Page. And I'll click the Add. That's added that product backlog item into my list. I can double click that item to open up its form. Let's fill in an effort field here. I'll give it an effort of 13. and we'll save and close that. We can of course fill in other fields on that form as we need to. The product owner would typically use this to groom the backlog. They can drag and drop to reprioritize work items in the list, and they can also drag it over to an iteration to assign it into an iteration. Let's put this into iteration 3 by dragging it over the iteration 3 item in the list. If you'd like to see the team's velocity, you can click on this velocity chart. This will draw a real-time velocity graph showing us how many effort points were delivered in previous iterations and how many effort points are committed in this current iteration. This will help the product owner decide at a high level how many product backlog items to put onto each iteration. Now that we've done some high-level product planning, let's go and look at the iteration backlog. I'm going to click on iteration 3, which is our current iteration. I'll use this collapse all button here just to collapse all the product backlog items. We're seeing here a list of all the product backlog items that have been assigned into this iteration. The team would typically use this at the beginning of an iteration to do a work breakdown. I'm going to hit this plus button here to add a task to this particular product backlog item. That'll open up a form for me. And we can add a task, and let's assign that to Adam, and the remaining work is going to be 4 hours. Let's add one more. We'll create a task called create icons, and we'll assign it to Annie, and that's going to take her 6 hours. Now as I'm updating the tasks and adding work onto the iteration, I can see these capacity bars updating on the right hand side of the iteration list. We can see that we've assigned 59 hours of work and we only have 56 hours of capacity. Let's click on the capacity tab to see how TFS calculates capacity. For each iteration, we specify how many hours a day each team member has available to this particular team. We can see here that Annie has 3 hours a day available for this particular team. She may be available 2 hours a day on some other team. Unfortunately, there's no way of seeing a global capacity, so you'll have to manage this manually. For each team member, we can also specify days off. So Brian has a day of leave within this iteration. And we can also specify team days off for bank holidays or days when the team's not going to be working on this particular iteration. Using all this information with the start and end dates, TFS is able to calculate what's the capacity of the team, as well as each individual team member. Let's go back to the backlog. So we can see that the team as a whole is overcommitted. We've assigned 59 hours of work and only have 56 hours of capacity. Again, let's collapse everything. We can see there's a couple of product backlog items right at the bottom. Since this is an ordered list from the product owner, we will negotiate with the product owner to take a few items from the bottom of the list and put them back onto the backlog. We can do this by easily dragging it onto backlog items. Let's drag one more off just to make sure. That's looking a little bit better. We can see that the team as a whole now has a bit of capacity. However, if we look at the assigned to, we can see that Annie has too much work assigned to her. We'd be able to go and change some tasks and shift the work around a little bit to make sure that Annie has enough capacity for the work on this particular sprint. To see a real-time burn down, we can click on this burn down link in the top right. That'll show us a burn down graph. We can see that we started this iteration with about 84 hours of work. At the end of the iteration, we want to burn down to 0 hours of work. That'll give us an ideal trend to work from. The remaining work is the blue area. Anytime it's below the ideal trend line, we're on track. Anytime it's above, we know we're going to be a little bit behind. This allows us early line of sight so that we can react. Now that we've done some planning, let's go and look at how the team can use the task board for the duration of the iteration. I'm going to click on board, and that'll open up the task board. Here we see a grid Each row is one of the product backlog items, and each column is one of the states for the task work item. To do, in progress, and done are the states for the task work item in the Scrum template. We can also see aggregations for each column and each row. So for our top product backlog item, we have 10 hours of remaining work. We have 40 hours in the to-do column, 4 hours in progress, and of course done as 0 hours remaining. Let's change this person to Adam bar. That'll minimize any product backlog item that Adam's not involved on, and grey out any task that's not assigned to him. Here we can see there's only this one task assigned to Adam. Adam can move this from the to-do column to the in progress column. We can also do reassignments. Perhaps we want to reassign this from Annie to Adam. And perhaps Adam wants to indicate that he's worked 2 hours on this particular work item and only has 2 hours remaining. We can also group this by people rather than product backlog items. Let's put all on the person filter, and now each row is a person instead of a product backlog item. As we're updating the stickies, the underlying work item is changing automatically. The burn down is also updating real time. The screen is touch sensitive, so you can use it with the touch screen, or you could just project it. This is a great tool to use for daily stand-ups. All of the functionality you've seen up until this point has been available since TFS 2012. In TFS 2013, a new feature called Enterprise Agile or Portfolio Management was added in. You can see that I have two backlogs listed, the backlog items backlog as well as the features backlog. Let me click on the features backlog to open that up. Here we can see a new work item type called feature. These features allow a product owner to aggregate product backlog items together. We can view how these features break down into product backlog items by changing the view. I'll change the view down to backlog items. This will show me a hierarchy of features and then expand those features out to the product backlog items that are related to those features. This is great for aggregating product backlog items into features, as well as for keeping tabs on work that's distributed across multiple teams. Let's open up this location finder feature and take a note of its ID, 164. Then let's go back to our product backlog items. We'll double click on the product backlog item we added earlier, and we'll create a link. We'll change the link type to parent and type in the ID of the feature that we want to parent this particular product backlog item. We'll then save and close. From this backlog, I can also view up to see how these product backlog items relate to their features. Again, I'll change the view here from backlog items to features. And here we can see all of our product backlog items and bugs and how they relate to the features that we have defined. Let's go back to the features backlog. And again, I'll change the view to backlog items. And there you'll see that our add CF converter and icons to weather page product backlog item is now listed as one of the product backlog items for the location finder feature. You can customize these backlogs and add up to 5 levels of backlogs above product backlog items. Let's take a look at the Kanban board. Boards for the product backlogs and feature backlogs are Kanban boards rather than the task board that you saw for the iterations. Now each sticky that's displayed in this view represents a feature rather than a task. Again, we can drag and drop these features across their states, and as we do so, we'll be able to plot a cumulative flow diagram. Let's go and look at the board for the product backlog. Here we can see a sticky for each product backlog item that we have. The number on each sticky is the amount of effort points assigned to each product backlog item. Again, by dragging and dropping, we can change the state of that work item. You'll see there's 4 columns here: new, approved, committed, and done. These are the out-of-the-box states for the product backlog item. However, we can customize the columns if our flow is a little bit different. Perhaps we like to go from idea into architecture, and from architecture we go into coding. From coding we go into testing. And from testing we go into UAT, and finally from UAT we're complete. You can see that each column I've added maps to a state. Since there are two work item types that can appear on the product backlog bug and product backlog item, we can map the states differently according to the different columns. Let's change the coding state from approved to committed for both the bug and the product backlog item. When I click OK, the columns will update. Now as I move these stickies through the various columns, the underlying state mappings will be obeyed. We can also set work in progress limits for each column. You'll see there's a visual indicator of what that limit is for each column. If we exceed that limit, we'll get a visual indication that we've exceeded the work in progress limit. We can also see how changing the columns affects the cumulative flow diagram. Everything we've seen so far, be it the Kanban board or the iteration backlog, has all been within the context of a team. Let's imagine now that the team project we're working on wants to add a new team in. Let's go to our settings and create a new team. I'm going to add a new team and we'll call this Fabricam Fiber Services Team. We can add a description if we want to. We can change the default permissions, but I'll use contributors as fine. And we can create an area path with the name of the team. I'm going to unselect that for now, and we'll hit Create Team. Let's go and open up that team and assign a couple of team members. Adam's already in because he created the team. Let's add Brian Keller. And Annie Harriman. Let's go over to the Areas tab for this team. Here we get to specify which areas this team has access to. Let's create a new area under Development called Services. We'll select that one, and this is the default area for this team. Any work items that appear in this particular area will be visible to this team on their iterations and product backlogs. Any work items in the other areas will not be visible. Let's also move over to iterations and specify which iterations the team has access to. We'll give this team access to iterations 3, 4, and 5, since 1 and 2 are already completed anyway. We'll also select Release 2 as the backlog iteration for this particular team. Any work item in the Release 2 iteration path will appear on the backlog for this particular team. Let's go to the backlog for the Fabricam Fiber team. Let's say we want to take the bottom 4 product backlog items and assign them to the services team. To do this quickly and easily, I'll hit this Create Query button to create a query on this backlog. I'll click the Click Here to View link to open up that query. Now I'll select the bottom 4 product backlog items, right-click and select Edit Selected Work Items. And we'll update the area path and we'll select Services Team. And we'll save all the changes. Let's then connect to the service team homepage. in the top bar, I can see that I'm currently connected to the Fabricam Fiber team. I'll expand that menu and select Browse All, and then select the Services team. Let's go to the backlogs for the Services team. Here we can see the 4 work items that we assigned into the Services area. They're now visible to the Services team. If we switch back to the Fabricam Fiber team, we'll still see all of them, since this team is configured to see all areas. Let's add the area path into this view so we can see which team is busy working on which product backlog item. I'll click on Column Options, select Area Path, and let's put it just after the state. Here we can see the 4 product backlog items that the Services team are working with. You can also see there's 3 work items that are in the Devices team. Let's switch over to the backlog for the Devices team. Again, I'll hit Browse All and select the Devices team to navigate there. These are all the product backlog items that are assigned into the Devices team. Again, if one of these had to change from the Devices team to the Services team, we could simply update the area path. Let's do that for our Add CF Converters and Icons to Weather page product backlog item. I'll change the area from Development to Services. It disappears off the backlog and we get a bit of information here telling us it was removed. If we hit Show Details, we'll see that it was moved because we updated the area path. Let's go back to the Services team. And there we can see the product backlog item is now visible on this backlog. This means that each team can see its own backlog. In this case, we're sharing iterations, but teams can have separate iterations as well. If you want to see the backlog for the entire organization across teams, you just connect to the root team. Each team is able to specify its own Kanban board columns, as well as its own favorites and tiles on the home page. Thank you so much for attending today's webcast. I'll now hand over to Becky, who will tell you some more about our upcoming events and special offers.
Thank you, Colin. Would you like to know more? Imaginet offers a variety of free webcasts and events. To see a listing of or to register for any of our free webcast or roadshows coming up soon, you can visit our website at www.imaginet.com/events. Our next round of webcast topics include new topics such as top business benefits of application lifecycle management, what's new for ALM with Team Foundation Server in Visual Studio 2013, Enterprise Agile Management with TFS 2013, improved developer productivity, managing test labs without the headache, and coded UI testing with Visual Studio 2013. Imaginet is also offering 2 upcoming training classes in 2013. The first is an accredited core Kanban using Team Foundation Server 3-day class. This will take place November 13th through 15th in Dallas, Texas. The second class is a professional Scrum Developer 5-day class. This will take place December 2nd through the 6th in Stuttgart, Germany. Registration links will be included in our follow-up emails later today if you're interested in registering for either one of these upcoming classes. If you enjoyed today's webcast and are interested in adopting Team Foundation 2013, Imaginet can help. We have our TFS 15-day adoption quick start. This includes designing, installing, and configuring your Team Foundation Server and the Visual Studio development tools. Imaginet will teach you and your team the best practices for source control, build and release management, agile methodologies, and work management processes. It also includes support and training for your team and includes a high-level ALM assessment. If you're interested, just email us at info@imaginet.com. Similarly, if you already own Team Foundation Server and are interested in upgrading to the newest version, Imaginet offers our TFS 2013 15-day upgrade quick start. This includes planning and upgrading your existing Team Foundation server to the newest version. We also covered the new best practices that exist in TFS 2013 around source control, build, agile methodologies, and the work item tracking processes. In addition, you will get support and training so your team is familiar with how to use the new features of TFS, and also includes a high-level ALM assessment. In addition to these two offers, Imaginet also offers a wide variety of ALM planning and implementation services. This includes other upgrade services, remote support, quick starts around lab management, manual testing, automated testing, and load testing, and also integration services that allow you to integrate Team Foundation Server with other products and tools. Finally, visit our Imaginet Visual Studio website. It's really your one-stop hub for all of your Visual Studio needs. Just visit visualstudio.imaginet.com. You'll be able to find all of our consulting services, training services, roadshows, and webcasts in one place. For any other questions or for more information, please feel free to contact us at info@imaginet.com or by calling 972-607-4830. Thanks again, and we hope to see you on another Imaginet webcast.